keeps asking, why do Latinos consistently align themselves with whiteness? Well, there is a historical reason for that, and we're going to get into it. All of this starts in Latin America and the Caribbean during colonization. At this time, in that region, there were three major human trafficking organizations: the British, the French, and the Spanish. They all had colonies in Latin America and the Caribbean, and they were all engaging in human trafficking, aka slavery. But the three countries had very different approaches to how they organized society. The British were known to be the harshest of the human traffickers in this region. Under British colonial rule, there were strict and rigid racial boundaries. Basically, there was the white people and the non-white people, and that was it. There was no mobility between the two. If you were born enslaved, you were probably gonna die enslaved. And the British were also known for being the most brutal traffickers out of them all. Then you have the French. They weren't as brutal as the British, and they weren't as rigid in their racial boundaries, but they were rigid as well. You can see here the caste system from Haiti, which was then known as Saint-Domingue. There's essentially three classes here: white people, colored people, and slaves. And as you can see, the white people are split up into the Grand Blanc, which are the wealthy planters, and the Petit Blanc, which are the merchants and the officials. And you have the gens de couleur. They are separated by free people by virtue of having white parentage, aka mixed people, and then free people who purchased their freedom. And lastly, you got the black people who are enslaved. So as you can see here, there's more stratification of their racial classification than in the British colonies, which were essentially white and non-white. There was some porousness between racial distinctions, but ultimately it was still very rigid in the French colonies, and what you were born into is what you would die into. Social mobility, upward mobility really wasn't a thing, which is part of the reason why the Haitian Revolution started. And now for the Spanish colonial system. This is the caste system of Latin America. As you can see, there are so many different categories that you can be placed into. It is not the binary white or non-white that you see in British colony. And it is much more complex than what you see in French colony caste systems. And that's because the Spanish had a very porous racial boundary system. The Spanish were much more flexible. They allowed for upward mobility. The Spaniards were down to intermarry with black people and indigenous people, something you rarely saw in the British colonies, and you didn't see that much in the French colony. And as a result, in Spanish colonies, you had much more of an opportunity for upward mobility. Just because you were born a slave doesn't mean you had to die enslaved. You could literally marry your way out of enslavement and up the social hierarchy. This is where the concept of blanqueamiento came in. This is where the concept of mejorar la raza came in, which means making your race better. Blanqueamiento means whitening the race. Because in Spanish colonies, you were actually able to improve your station in life by whitening your bloodline. So this mentality stuck. And it got passed on generation after generation, even after slavery was abolished. And so now in 2026, you have a whole entire community of people across dozens of countries who believe that aligning themselves with whiteness can improve their station in life. But unfortunately for them, this isn't Latin America. So that mentality is not pervasive here, which is why they keep screwing themselves electorally.
You will never be white. As much as you, a fellow Latino, wants to be in proximity to whiteness, you will never be white. You will never be chosen in that way. As much as you think that you are better than undocumented Latinos because your family came here the right way, or because you're second generation or third generation, or because you either forgot or unaware of the foundation of this country and the fact that immigrants from Europe came here, stole the land from indigenous people, and then literally stole people, and forced them to be slaves.
There is a pattern that has always been going on historically. There is a repeated pattern that has been going on. And I think people are catching up to the wind. And the wind is Latinos mess up. But then after messing up, they are expecting black people to come and, clean up the mess. But this time around, black people say that we ain't doing nothing for your mess. You solve your issues. You solve your issues, call white people to help you because those are the same people that you align with. Brothers and sisters, and I know for a long time, honestly, it might sound funny, but I do enjoy how the Latinos speak. I do enjoy everything about them, except the decisions that they make, especially the ones that are in the United States. Some of the decisions that they make. And for the longest time, black people have tried to call them to come and just do the right decision because there's a fight that people need each other. But at the end of the day, they keep on betraying black folks. And what happens? They later on come and learn that the people that they're trying so much to align with doesn't give a damn about them, and that's white people. And for the longest time, we have seen Latinos trying so much to prove themselves to white people. Then what turns after that is what? What turns after that is always a betrayal. And the people that they will always the people that they'll always try to run to when they are trying to find the solution, it is black folks. And now they'll come and say that, you know what, we need unity. We need to be together, we need to fight together. We need to be together. We are all people of color. I understand that's how it's supposed to be. We need to all stand together. I know that all makes sense. But tell me, why should it make sense when it's only convenient to you? Because every time black people give you a chance, you always blow it up. But hey, something is happening in the Latino community, and they're speaking out about it. I want us to watch this video, and then I'll be back. I'll be sharing my 2 cents in regards to this. For those who are watching me for the first time, man, I'm so grateful for the support. I'm so grateful for everything. Just understand that I don't take you for granted. And I might not reply to all of your comments, but I'm always saying what you guys are saying, and I take it the way it is, and I understand everything. So brothers and sisters, I really appreciate. So I want us to get into this video, and then I'll be back. I'll be sharing my thoughts, or I'll be sharing my 2 cents in regards to this.
Force them to do labor. So when you think that you want to be in proximity to whiteness because you consider yourself better, think about that. Think about that there is internalized racism in our own community, how there is anti-blackness in our own community, how there is colorism in our own community. Think about those things, because no human being is better than the other because they think that because they have papers that they are better than another human being. A human being is a human being. There is no alien. There is no illegal when it comes to the world, okay? So let me remind you that you will never be white. Oh my gosh, who said that? Who said it? Who said that?
You tell me if Latinos aren't the most successfully colonized, considering they are voting people in that continue to hurt our community, all for their proximity to whiteness, because for some reason they believe that that's upward progression when a white man's leadership has never led us to liberty. They believe that they are Christian and Catholic by choice. And it's not by choice. It's by observational knowledge and colonization. The people around them were Christian and Catholic. They believe that their religion is the optimal religion and will not study other ones because that goes against their primary quote unquote belief. But it's not their belief. It was a colonizer's belief, because when the Spanish came with a Bible in one hand and a gun in another. And in order to successfully colonize a group, you need to do a couple of things. One, remove their language. They've made us believe that Spanish is our own tongue, which is why we mock people saying, tienes el nopal en la cara and you don't speak Spanish, not even knowing that that term is also derogatory to mean you look indigenous and you don't speak Spanish. the words of the oppressor. You and I also speak bastard Spanish, not authentic Spanish. A lot of our Spanish is mixed in with indigenous words. And if you go to Spain, they will let you know that. 2, introduce an organized religion. 1 that says that you will obey the law of the land, that you will obey your mother and your father because they didn't come with women. The Spanish just came with men, and then they raped our children, which is why they were also heavy on the you must forgive. To further that, then you have to eradicate their beliefs and their spirituality. You also need to steal all their riches so they don't remember, as well as removing all of their hard work that they've done. We know the Mayans were leading in astronomy. So they burned books, they removed all the monuments that they had, and they stripped them away from everything that they knew. Then they create a caste system, one where they say that the lighter you are, the more intelligent, the more powerful you are. And they do this because they created a white Jesus, when we know the Bible says that Jesus had bronze skin and hair of wool. Last time I checked, white people don't have hair of wool. They don't. Black people do, though. When you create a liberator of sins to look white, you convince the indigenous community that whiteness somehow means greatness. Then the colonizer introduces racism in their mind because they target a few while lifting up the rest. For example, we had the Spanish on the top, the mestizos that were mixed with Indian and Spanish. Then you had the mulattos, and then so on and so forth, and then the negros, right? And when you have this separation, you can target a group of people and say they are the bad ones. We should all go against them, while not understanding that the oppressed is a collective experience. It doesn't matter if we were mestizo or mulatto or negro. Yes, the negro suffered a lot freaking more, but that doesn't mean that the mestizo and mulatto didn't. All in all, to say, racism in the Latino community, which I don't even like saying Latino. That's like fucking saying you're American. Like, what kind of American are you? Are you European American? Are you Black American? Are you Mexican American? Latino is a term that means you just speak Latin from Rome. Last time I checked, we're not Roman. And Hispanic just means you belong to Spain. I'm sorry, I don't belong to Spain. I prefer the term indigenous, but that's for another day. When you engrave colorism, remove someone's religion, remove their language so they don't pass down stories or beliefs, then you have successfully colonized a group. Not just colonize them by ripping this stuff away from them, but colonize their mind. Once this all takes place, this means that the indigenous community will no longer understand that the land is their mother, that they only take what they need. And that is what the Europeans wanted. They wanted ownership. They could not understand how the indigenous people gave so freely, how they didn't own anything. In fact, Christopher Columbus mocked the Taínos to say how foolish they were, that they did not believe in ownership. So now that we've discussed a little bit of history, how does that play into today? We lump ourselves up with the term Latino and Hispanic, and then even then we can't even go deeper. And when we ask what type of Latino and Hispanic you are, you only know your nationality. You only know Guatemalan and Mexican, which again is kind of like American. What kind of Mexican are you? What kind of indigenous tribe do you come from? Many people to this day do not know. So when you have separated someone so far away from their origins, guess what? The colonizer has won, because you forgot that you're native to this land, that we're indigenous to this land. They make you believe that you are the outsider when the outsider has always been them. And to this day, they make you believe that indigenous people are the savages, that the indigenous people were the only ones to make sacrifices. I'm sorry. It's the European Americans that are the savages and the murderers. Aren't they still sacrificing people today? Aren't they still killing people today? We have modern day lynchings. We still have police killing. We still have biological warfare. They're still making us sick. If you're ready to uncover the truth, the ones that white people did not want to teach us, the ones that the government did not want to teach us, make sure you follow me for more, because it's about to get good here.
Do you want to talk about upholding white supremacy and how Latinos play a role into it? Because if you do, you've come to the right place. Because one of the biggest disappointments that came out from the election and Kamala Harris losing the election is me discovering how many Latinos not only voted for that man, but actively voted against our community and actively spoke ill will of immigrants when so many of them are descendants of immigrants themselves. Let's talk about that. And how so much of this is tied to the need to feel close to whiteness, the proximity to whiteness. Think about that, okay? And I want to play this video so that you can put things into context, because this video of a dad talking to his son in Spanish about his immigration story It's in Spanish, so I'll translate it afterwards, at least the main points, and then we'll do a little analysis because we need to talk about this because this did play a role. This did contribute to a Black and Asian woman not being elected to the highest office in the land, okay? It did. It's connected. So let me play the video.
Esa gente, también así me vine. Y porque así me vine, naciste tú aquí, por eso no tienes el mismo pensamiento que nosotros. Esas personas no tienen ninguna oportunidad en nuestras tierras, por eso es que migran.
And the clip is longer, but I'll summarize what the dad said. The dad is telling the son that people will immigrate to this country because of lack of opportunity or issues that they're encountering in their own country. And I know a lot of people out there are like, oh, well, that's their problem. But can you imagine, and this is where the lack of empathy plays a role. Can you imagine if you had no opportunities in your country, or if you were in a war-torn country, or if you fell into a dictatorship? Can you imagine feeling like the only option you have is to immigrate to another country and for that country to be like, nah, or for the people of that country to be like, don't care about you. No. And to do that to your own people, The dad is telling him that the son gets to benefit from being a citizen because the dad immigrated. Because he immigrated. The why behind the story is also important. Okay, but let's talk about how this impacted the election because I think that's really important. There is a socialization of our people, the Latino community, when we are growing up, that we are told to aspire to what the Americano, what the American does. And Americano is synonymous of white. It's not just any American, it's what the white person does because it is observed that white people are treated differently. That is a thing. And within the Latino community, there's also anti-blackness, there's colorism, there's machismo, and all of those things. There's internalized racism, this need to be close to white people that exists, and it absolutely contributed to a Black and Asian woman not being elected to office. That absolutely contributed, and I will stand on that. And if you understand this, comment. Let me know, because I cannot be the only one that believes this. Follow for more, because we're going to be talking about this way more.
Why do some Latinos want to be white so bad? Now, this is a question that a lot of communities tend to ask about the Latinos. Now, while I don't have an answer for the full Latino community, I do have an answer for the Mexican community. Let's take it back to the 1500s, when Hernán Cortés invaded Tenochtitlan, modern-day Mexico. And something you need to understand is that it wasn't just Españoles getting off those boats. It was also African slaves. When Cortés and his men took over modern-day Mexico, they implemented what is called the caste system. Have you ever heard the phrase, mejorar la raza? Yeah, it comes from that. Mejorar la raza means to better the race. Better the race means marrying white. And that was implemented over 500 years ago. And yeah, sure, it was 500 years ago. We should get over it and stop being so colorist, classist, and racist. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of the generations are trying to break this or have broken this type of mentality. Meanwhile, you still have the older generations who do think this way because we still had Españoles and a lot of other European countries come to Mexico during the early 1900s. And these Europeans would walk down wherever there was indigenous or Afro-Mexican and look down upon them, calling them racial slurs like indios, prietos. Have you ever heard indio bajado del cerro? That's a racial slur for our indigenous people because the more indigenous you are, the more away you were from the city, the less class and education you had, and you were considered lower than everybody else. Again, leading back to the caste system, even though it's 500 years later. So why is this still happening and it's 2025? The older generation of Mexicans did go through a lot of prosecutions. Mexican Repatriation Act that happened in the 1920s, Operation Wetback that happened in the 1940s, the wet lines along with the lettuce protests that happened in the 1960s, and even though time and time we've seen again that Mexicans uniting with the Black community, it's a lot of things done, it's still part of the system to be racist against anybody that is darker than you. And if you're dark, they teach you to go lighter, to aim to be lighter. So if you marry somebody that's lighter than you or white, you're saved. Now, again, I want to emphasize that this is not everybody in the Mexican community. A lot of people have been breaking this mentality, especially in the country of Mexico. The country of Mexico has been more accepting to our indigenous people and our Afro-Mexicans. Mexico has always been a melting pot when it comes to different nationalities and ethnicities. That's why many people are trying to break this thought process that was implemented again over 500 years ago by colonizers. So if you see a Mexican with this type of mentality, it's a colonization mentality that they still have yet to break. This is why it's important to speak on the history that the colonizers tried to erase, to educate one another so the next generations to come know where they come from and they stay united. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below.
Us as Latinos, I've noticed that we're willing to accept white people in our family, but not Black people. Most of the time we prefer white people over Black people. Really any other nation more than a black person. What I mean is, a mother's daughter has a white boyfriend, they would happily welcome him more than if she had a black boyfriend. Most of the time, there's a stereotype within the Hispanic household about black people, right? That they're criminals, they're gang members, they're violent, they're someone you should fear. When really, we should look at white people that way, because white people are the ones who actually are harming us right now. Yes, they're Hispanics who are in those ICE trucks, ICE vans, but they have been put in place by the oppressor. The same people who descend from the people who took your land, put your forefathers in slave ships, stole your identity, gave you the terms Latino, Hispanic. The people who descend from those people, they're oppressing you today. And their forefathers oppressed your forefathers back in the day. So what is my point? We need to deny any nation but our own. As Black, Latinos, and Natives, we are the same people. We should unite, we should come together, and we should marry one another. If your daughter wants to get with a so-called African American, of course, you want to make sure that he's a good fit. You should allow that. If your son wants to get with an African American sister, make sure she is fit and allow that. And same thing for so-called black people. Same thing for your daughters and your sons who want to get with natives or so-called Hispanic. You should allow that, because that's going to make us unite. That's going to make us stronger. And people might say, well, black people hate Hispanics. Hispanics hate black people. Listen, the reason why we are hurting each other is because we're oppressed by the same person who's causing stress, who's causing chaos, who's causing poverty in our lives. And when we are going through stress and anger, we get violent. And who are we going to get violent with? The people who live among us. We live amongst each other. You understand? But the people who we should really be upset with, and who we should point the finger at, is our oppressor. And we should never point the finger at each other. We should come together, resolve our problems, get over grudges, get over division amongst each other, and really come together as a community. Get off of drugs. Go against drugs. Go against drug dealers. Go against our daughters being whores and prostitutes and sleeping around. And really lock in and build as a community where men can be men, women can be women, and we'll rise to the top. And that's what the Most High, our God, wants for us. He wants us to get right, to fix ourselves, to cleanse ourselves. This is from the ISUPK and the Commander General Hana. This is what we teach. This is what we promote, because this is what the Bible teaches. You understand? If you want to learn more, go to isupk.com. Find a school near you. Shalom.
As a Latina woman, I will never understand the need to have a proximity to whiteness in the Latino community. First of all, colorism is absolutely rampant no matter where you go with Latinos. I grew up with it. One time when I was little, I came back from Cancun and I had like a tan, and my grandma made me start scrubbing myself so that I could get rid of that tan. On top of that, I've been told by both my grandmas that I need to mejorar la raza. But I was dating my ex, who was very morenito. I got into a really big fight with my aunt because she was like, Kelly, don't you want somebody with colored eyes? Don't you want somebody with lighter skin? What about your kids? Your kids are gonna come out dark. And like, my sister is like 5 shades darker than me. That was one of the biggest fights my aunt and I got into because, my sister, my everything. And If my sister ever at any point begins to feel insecure about her skin color because our family members can't keep their fucking bullshit to themselves, and you know, I've had to have the talk with my sister, who's a lot darker than I am, about the fact that there are going to be people out there that do not like her simply because of her skin color. And it is so difficult to try to explain why that is to a child. Luckily, we live in a Latino community, so it's purely Latinos everywhere, and they're like all the same color as her. But at the end of the day, you know what I mean? Like, it makes me sad to have this conversation with her. My grandma always used to tell me to marry or date a white man because they're going to take care of me and make sure that I'm, like, you know, set for life. But at the end of the day, like, both the kids that married white men, one of them has to deal with racism from extended family members who say that she's only with him because of his money. My other aunt, she's married to a bigot and has become a bigot herself. On top of that, one thing I noticed is that white people have no problem moving far, far away from their families. Like, they will move states over, or maybe even countries over. And, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but it is just an observation because a lot of my Latina family members who married white men have picked up everything and left because of their husbands. You know, pushing them to do that, to pick up and basically leave everything behind so that they can, like, start a new life in a different state. And then I hear complaints specifically from these Latina women, like, oh, I miss my family, like, oh, I hate not being around the family, but, you know, he wanted us to move.
I will never be white passing. Latinidad was built on our proximity to whiteness, and those closer to whiteness benefiting from white supremacy. So when a literal white woman could Latina fish, that is completely plausible because of Latinidad's proximity to whiteness. But for me and other morenas, morenos, morenexes, we don't privilege off of white supremacy in the ways that white Latinos, Latinas, Latinxes do. Colorism has been rampant since colonization. And my everyday experience and other morenas, morenexes experiences are not the same as people who are white passing, not only in our daily lives, but even within academia. If you've ever gone to a Latino studies department, a Mexican American studies department, a Chicano studies department, you might generally see the lack of melanin in those departments. Because even within academia, there is colorism.
Imagine if I, an Afro-Latina, identified as white. Unexpected, right? 28% of Afro-Latinas identified as white in a survey conducted by the Pew Research Center in 2019 and 2020. That might come as a surprise, so we wanted to do some digging for a bit more clarity. We spoke with 3 different professors to break down how this marginalized group could find belonging in the white community. And although the professors had issues with how the Pew study was conducted, they laid out a few of the top reasons why some Afro-Latina people consider themselves to be white.
And in Latin America, saying that you have a little bit of African ancestry is not the same thing as saying that you are Black. And so folks may feel much more free to say, sure, I have some African descendants in my family from many years back, but they don't think of it necessarily as a racial identity.
The first thing we need to grasp is that many other countries view the concept of race differently than we do in the US. For example,
we have a one-drop rule in the United States that stems from slavery because that was part of the way that we ensured that people remained property despite the fact that they had European ancestors. In Latin America, things were not quite like that.
In order for us to understand how people come to talk about their identity, we have to know their social location, age, where they grew up, what was going on in the country. You know, in the Dominican Republic, there was a Trujillato where being and identifying as Black was pretty much persecuted, right? And people still did. So we have to contextualize.
Then, we also need to consider some of the anti-Blackness that has been prevalent in the Latina community for centuries, which might contribute to members wanting to distance themselves from that label.
There has been a hierarchy that whiteness and white supremacy has been one of the organizing principles of not only the United States, but all of Latin America. So there is a history of distancing yourself from a category that's considered stigmatized. So we can't just ignore that history and say, well, there's something wrong with these people because they're not identifying as Black.
And their understanding of race might be even further complicated by the communities that raise them.
I know a lot of Afro-Latinx who grew up around African American communities, and so they will often identify more racially than ethnically because that's the space that they grew up in. But if you're in other places, like say you're in Miami, where there's in some ways a more distinct separation, then you get a different kind of set of identities.
There could be over a dozen reasons why Afro-Latine might identify as white, but the professors help boil it down to whether or not they feel they can relate to all that comes with being a part of the Black community, some of the historical anti-Black sentiments in Latin American countries, and their personal understanding of race, which may not match the American standard of race. So, I'll ask you again. Imagine if I identified as white.
You know what's sad? When Latinos cannot admit that they have fallen trap to colonialism, to white supremacy, to anti-Blackness, to colorism, to internalized racism. And I know a lot of people out there are like, oh, all those woke words. But if you really dig deep into what each of those things are, you will see many examples of those things and how they manifest within the Latino community. And yes, many of those people are people that voted for that man. But I say that it's sad because when I've created content about this, mind you, the content is centering the fact that there are many examples of all those things that I just mentioned within the Latino community when Latinos themselves say things like, oh, you should marry someone that's lighter skinned or a white person to mejorar la raza, to better the race. When Latinos make anti-Black comments, when Latinos are talking to their own family members differently because they are of a darker complexion. When Latinos cannot seem to understand that when they are trying to be in proximity to whiteness and be accepted by white people, that they have fallen trapped to white supremacy. And it's sad because I get comments from Latinos that are like, this has nothing to do with color. And there are Latinos that are anti-immigrant because they say they did it the right way or that their families did it the right way, when in reality, the country itself was founded on the stealing, the taking of land from indigenous people. Mind you, us Latinos come from indigenous people. The language, even the Spanish language, is a language that was brought to us by colonizers from Spain. And I say all these things because I'm like, come on, y'all. I was someone that also wasn't aware of all this stuff. But when I awoke to it, I was like, oh my gosh. What? And so when I say these things and I make content about it, and then I still get comments from Latinos that are like, oh, this has nothing to do with race. This has nothing to do with color. Or I've been able to do great in this country. And it's like, that's awesome. And the reality is that so many people, simply because they are Latino or because they appear to be of a darker complexion, automatically have it worse in certain environments because of that. That's just the reality. And so it's great that you have been able to have the access and the resources that you've had. That's amazing. And it doesn't make that the reality for everyone else. Okay? But anyways, that's what I had to say. So if you want more of this type of content, if you want to have more of this type of conversation, then follow for more. I'm Michael, by the way.
Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to the channel. I'm hoping that you are definitely doing great. Well, if you're not doing great, I pray that you get better soon. I'll always be grateful to the Almighty, to the Creator of earth and heaven. I'm grateful for everything, for the gift of life, the air that I breathe, drinking clean water, because I know there's somebody out there that doesn't have the same, but God has given me that. And so I'll be forever grateful. I'll be forever grateful for everything that He has done to me. I'll be forever grateful. Matters first. Let's talk about things that matter first. It is so sad. The world watch Latinos sometimes suffer, go through everything that they go through, including white folks, because Latinos try so much to be white. They can do anything for them to be accepted by the white community. They'll do anything to be accepted by the white community. But this is how this costs them. When the true cause of what they want comes, then there is no white people to help them. But then who do they turn back and look to? When they look at their side, they are only seeing black people. And they're only seeing black people as a group that can help them. It becomes a little bit more problematic when we start to look at that in that line. Because I think reciprocation is important only when it is for a true cause, when it is for a cause that helps everyone. But when it's personal, I don't think it usually helps or it sustains the stand of it all. Somebody's saying that if someone tells you to marry white to better the race, I will never let them live that down. I will forever shame them. Shit is embarrassing. Couldn't be my mother or granny. Yeah, this comment comes out because this is always common in the Latino community. They definitely call themselves Morena. Morena, if I'm not wrong, then correct me. If I'm wrong, then correct me. Morena, I think, is a light skin. I don't know, maybe a light skin, Latino. So when they told you to, they need to retain the color, don't marry a black person, it is because they think that the white race is a better race. And so for you, as a black person, you don't stand a chance. And this is something that has been going on. There are houses, there are a couple of Latino houses that our grandmother says that, don't get a child with a black person because it will destroy the race. And it's crazy, right? It's crazy because all these things has been going on for the longest time and people are talking about them. Those are just micro colorism things that are happening, which also reflects to their political choices, which also reflects to the majority of things that are affecting the United States. Somebody say that all commandments are excellent. Yes, I can imagine, because I'm living in and want to be a dictatorship now. My history is being stripped away. We are in a war, just not being bombed made yet. Don't know about you, but looking for a place to go. Somebody say that those Latino needs to go find who they are and not hateful and jealous of black people. We are free. There is no confusion. We know what we want. Yeah. Somebody say that, hey there, my eyes and my ears connect to my mind. So you have that problem. I am a black woman. I was not raised to look at color. I'm a brown complex. We are all beautiful in different rainbows, in different shades of color. Some of us stand out. So what? Just let us respect each other. That's how we should do. May God continue healing, help, and blessings to all of us. Blessings to all of us shall know one day we are all made in God's image, and that's wonderful. Somebody say that the part about this is no matter how light skin in America, the moment you speak with a particular accent, white people will immediately know you are not white. So unless you really work hard on losing your accent and completely willing to abandon your people and culture, you will never be expected as being white. And the lesson goes to all the different immigrant communities, and it's a fact. Somebody said that Hispanics test the room you need to get grip. You seem to keep missing the mark. Love yourselves first. It seemed you need to do that. Now, who is supposed to be the best? Stop looking at whiteness. Be you. Everybody looks at our skin color, and it makes us no less. The fact that you don't like black because of skin tone, people are people, so stop it. You think that blacks sit around painting over whiteness? Black folks, you see this? I gotta get off this post. This is not healthy. And I think it's imperative that people have to come out and, just to talk about this. So brothers and sisters, please let me know what you think and feel about this video. And as you know, I'm your host and presenter Ejinok Stories. But until then, let me see you on my next video. Peace, love, and harmony. Salute.